Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to the channel. It's Nick Alex, and I'm making another 7 Deadly Sins Grand Cross video. Very cool. Now, this one is not a showcase of Estarossa like I promised you guys, or Monspeed like I thought of promising you guys, or Derriere, which I haven't yet promised you, but I guess it was sort of implied with me pulling her in such spectacular fashion. But it's actually about a dev note that was just released about 30 minutes ago. And the dev note's pretty interesting, and it will explain why there is a massive reward in your pants. No, a massive reward in your inbox, in your notices tab of the inbox, celebrating 20 million downloads. So in 6 months, in less than 6 months actually, because my math was so wrong, and the Twitch chat explained to me that 6 months from March is actually September. So we're actually probably 2 weeks away from Lost Vein. But anyways, 20 million people have downloaded the game, and man, that means they've made a lot of money. So to thank us for giving them so much of our money, they're giving us some pretty awesome rewards. It's 5 diamonds and some other stuff, and then it's going to be other things as well. Because when I looked at this, I was kind of confused. I was like, okay, the horns, sure, but and the gold and the XP pots, but why a green book and not blue or red or one of each? So they're going to be alternating, and there's going to be 6 days in total of these types of rewards, varying book colors, varying materials for awakening, for limit breaking. Sorry, not awakening, limit breaking. And so we're going to get 30 diamonds over the next 6 days, which is pretty amazing. So that's what they talk about at the beginning of the dev note here. They want to celebrate 20 million downloads. The achievement is possible because of Knights like you. They have, you know, love and support. So they're grateful, and they show gratitude, which is nice. It's great. They've already released a dev note faster than Marvel Future Fight has released another dev note. So I was a bit kind of irked. I want Marvel Future Fight to release another dev note sometime soon, because that game, now in its 6th year, owes the players a lot more communication than this game. However, on the flip side, besides the login event, this is brand new for global. This was never on JP. For global, most of the rest of the dev note is just stuff from JP that we're going to be getting. So if you don't know anything about the JP server or the JP sort of track record, then this is all new to you, and you're going to be excited. If you are a JP player or a JP watcher, then you're going to know exactly what I'm about to say. So let's talk about what they're going to explain anyways. This is some of the upcoming updates and developmental direction. Really, the reason why I made this video is actually just to talk about the very last thing that they talk about in the dev note, but I'll cover the other stuff first. So if you guys remember, I think it was the Estarossa update, or it was the one before Estarossa, there was a bug that was showing when you went to your awakened equipment. There was a bug that was saying acquire 1 diamond for having a 5-star SSR piece of gear. And so for every single piece of SSR gear you have that's at 5 stars, it doesn't need to be +5, just 5 stars, you get a diamond. So this is a really good incentive for lower spending players to start grinding out awakening stones. You need 15 awakening stones to make a piece of gear like this, and then to make as many pieces as possible, and just leave them. Even if they have bad rolls, it doesn't matter for now, because you're going to get 1 diamond for each one. Now, it's unclear whether this system is permanent or not. I know it's already on JP. It was already introduced on JP, but I'm not sure, because I didn't follow up on it, whether it was a temporary thing or a permanent thing. If it's a permanent thing, then obviously there's no rush to do this, but this is a great incentive to get players to continue working on gear, right? You want to continue working on gear eventually for more UR gear sets, because UR has a particular bonus for a particular character, so you'll technically need a UR gear set for at least whatever X characters. But this is another further incentive, and I think it's a good incentive. 1 diamond, maybe it could be 2 diamonds, who knows, but it's not bad at all. But again, this is just recycled content from JP. Then they're talking about new content, and this will be both exciting content if you're looking for a PvE challenge, but also a humongous grind and a humongous sort of whale fest, where sort of all the whales sort of chomp down on the smaller plankton, aka the free-to-play players and all the others, when it comes to upgrading your uniforms, upgrading your cosmetics. Uniforms is from Marvel Future Fight speak. But anyways, they're talking about Hell Demons. So we right now have the 3 difficulties: normal, hard, and extreme. They're eventually going to come out with Hell. Again, this is already on the JP, and essentially it costs a little bit more stamina. It's harder, it's higher CC. I believe it goes up to like 300k CC or something like around there. And as you can see, there's a rule only used by strength attribute heroes. So Crimson is strength attribute, whatever that's red. So you can only use red units. Or is he red, or is strength blue? Strength is green, blue is speed. I always get confused because in Marvel Future Fight, red is strength. So green is HP. Why does Crimson say strength? Oh, you can only use the advantageous. Ah, right. Yeah, you can only use the advantageous typing. I thought it was the same typing. I got confused a second. So anyways, you can only use red units against Crimson, you can only use blue units against Red Demon, and you can only use green units against the Hell version of the Gray Demon. So you can only use the type advantage. So no more Gother cheese or sort of Gother strategies in either, you know, Red Demon or Gray Demon. You can only use Gother for Crimson. And then you can't use any of the freeze characters against the Red Demon because right now the freeze characters are all green or red, right? Merlin or Gustav. You could bring Blue King to Petrify, but it'll be hard to get level 2 Petrifies because you can't rank up with Gother. So there is an added difficulty to this, but with this comes new item drops, right? A higher difficulty means better rewards, and this is something the game does so well. And so these brilliant components, which are used to enhance different cosmetics, right? Weapon, headpiece cosmetics, and the outfit cosmetics will be available. So what that basically means is you can even upgrade SR costumes. So for characters that haven't gotten as many cosmetics or whatever, you can upgrade those all the way to UR. So it opens up a huge bonus of stats to allow you to increase your character CC and your count CC, right? So this is a huge grind. This is a grind that plenty of JP players are still doing in a huge way. And it's, of course, a new avenue for them to make big bucks selling, you know, cosmetic upgrade components. Then we're also going to be getting, again, this is recycled from JP. We're also going to be getting the Lilia boss battle, which is a limited time boss battle like the Colossal Titan, like the Afrit Demon, like the Pokemon Pikachu thing that we had, the Kizama, whatever it's called, that we just had. And that exchange shop will also include various upgrades, and it says items for cosmetics, for costumes, and various upgrade materials. And then there's also going to include a special reward from the development team. So that sounds like something global specific. That's kind of nice. It's kind of cute for them to do that. But again, this content was already accidentally released on global in name only, where you could like shuffle through to your team, your Awakened Lilia Disaster team, to set it, even though it wasn't available yet. And again, this content is just you know, being recycled from JP. So we're getting JP content, JP rewards, some global rewards. But here's what I want to talk about at the end, and this is the part that sort of interests me, and the part where I can sort of give my perspective, having played mobile games for, you know, whatever, 5 years now, on various different platforms. So it says here, future update direction. This is what I'm always interested with Grand Cross. I'm not so interested in what they do regarding following the path that's been tread already by JP, but what are they trying to do that's different, that's unique? We've heard your concerns regarding the difficulty of strengthening heroes and repetitive gameplay. Okay. The development team is approaching the issue at every angle to lessen this sort of stress. Okay, that's basically something they have to say. It's like a canned response. They're not going to say that they're not listening. Though it's difficult to solve such issues in one fell swoop. That's true. It's issue to solve. It's difficult to just fix it in one update. We will do our best to continue implementing various events and quality of life improvements while carefully planning the coming updates. Okay, yeah. We sincerely thank All Knights for providing their passionate feedback, and we will continue to listen and respond. We will do our best to develop the game by looking at it from the perspective of our players. So yeah, this is great. They worded it well. There's a lot of information. I like their passion, and I like their dedication. Obviously, they're making a ton of money on this game, and they are, you know, I think they're approaching it in a professional and appropriate manner, given how like the fat stacks that they're piling up from this game. You know, some games they make tons of money and they don't really appreciate their players in this kind of fashion. So I that is nice. I do like that. However, I can only speak from my own perspective, but I do think that repetitive gameplay is probably the thing that is most at risk of continuing, and it's basically still the same on JP. Now, it all depends, you know, what I'm going to say all depends on where you are as a player compared to where I am as a player, because of course, you know, a brand new player will always have tons more things to do than me because they're a brand new player. They haven't experienced the game. They haven't even gone through the story, right? But when you look at the gameplay, and this is basically the biggest reason why I feel less hype about the game in general, although the game quality is still fantastic, is that so much of the content that's not PvP is just autoplay only. Now, reverse stages is not autoplay friendly or sort of autoplay encouraged, which is good. I like that about reverse stages, but reverse stages are one and done, which is not great for longevity. It's great content for what it is, and I'm glad that they made it, and it's nice that they did that, and it's a very unique way of doing things, and I wish other games would adopt this strategy, but I almost feel like they could have done it in a different way. Maybe their Season 3 will be done in a different way that encourages repetition and encourages replayability, rather than being a one and done thing where you go for 3 stars, then you never ever play it again kind of thing. Besides that, you know, autoplay, 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 autoplay. This is not autoplay. This is amazing. Final Boss is awesome, but it's a time limited event. So, you know, we're not going to have Final Boss every week. That would get tiring as well. All the boss battle stuffs are autoplay. Right now, all of the death matches can be autoplayed as well. Now, Hell Mode does introduce something new. Oh, you guys can't see. Whoops, I wasn't hiding my screen. Anyways, but you guys know what the screen looks like. You've seen it 1,000 times. But yeah, basically, all of the content in the game is autoplay in a big way. And for me, and for a lot of players who, you know, invested some money in the game and farmed aggressively, even for like, you know, Spam and Rice, who's like a high level free to play player, most of the game now is just autoplay besides PvP. And so I think that's something that they need to address in a more concrete way, is coming up with content that is, my bad, wrong window, coming up with content that is non-repetitive. Well, I don't know about repetitive gameplay, but I think what they need to do is, and I talked about this on stream, is they need to consolidate. And I'm surprised they haven't done this yet on JP, but essentially I would imagine that they will be looking at doing it soon on JP, and then in a few months it'll come to global. And that's basically consolidating some of the content, some of the autoplay farm content into the same thing, right? So for example, if you go into Fort Solgris, right now they separated into 3 different categories. It's just a lot of farming. You've got, you know, it's actually 4. You've got XP pots here, you've got books here, you've got gold here. So these are 3 separate stages with 3 separate, I mean, these cost stamina, but they even got their own bars, right? And then you've got this one that works on the separate timer. And then you've got this one here that works on a completely different timer. And this one allows you to choose between these 3. But you can see like how many different stages and steps they've created with just one piece of farming content. And that's not talking about farming, you know, equipment. That's not talking about farming for food. That's not talking about the battle missions, the battle events that they come up with that are basically just, you know, very simplistic farming events. These ones right here at the top that cycle around. They're not talking about the boss battle farming, right? So it's a lot of farming. So I would like them to cut down on the amount of daily farming that we have to do by consolidating some of this content, like flattening this. Instead of having this being so many different things, why not just have this be one thing, right? Just one catch-all place where you farm for, you know, 3 and 4 star stamina pots, 3 and 4 star books, and 3 and 4 star treasures. And then you can choose, sort of like this, what your bar will fill up to give you. Is it going to fill up to give you, you know, UR treasures, 5-star pots, or 5-star books? And then it'll have a separate bar that will passively charge up to give you SSR pendants, right? They got to consolidate, and basically every mobile game does this eventually, where, you know, at the beginning there's a bunch of farming content, but as the game progresses and as the game gets older, players don't want to do farming, right? You don't want to be, I'm sure JP players who have been playing for a year are bored to death of farming, right? But the farming is exactly the same as it was 1 year ago, right? You don't want to do the same content repetitively day in and day out for a year. Like, it's exhausting, right? So I think that they need to address that by consolidating some of the content and creating some other, the thing is, for me, it's creating some other PvE content. I guess it could be PvP, but I think PvP is already pretty well established in the game, and it's got longevity, and it's got flexibility, and it's not PV, it's not autoplay friendly, right? Establishing some, and we're getting 3 versus 3 PvP, which is autoplay only, but establishing some kind of PvE content that is non-repetitive, sort of like Final Boss, but something that maybe is permanent. So I would like to see something like that. You know, Marvel Future Fight, for example, has World Boss. That is sort of something that I would like to see 7 Deadly Sins Grand Cross come up with, where they have, you know, 10 different bosses, or they can come up with more bosses, or they can come up with a different version, a shortened version of the final boss later on, right? Rather than continuously rotating through these bosses, they could eventually, right, let's say on JP, once they've released all of the final bosses, so they released Final Boss Escanor or whatever, and they've released all of the final bosses, then they could create like a page where you can just choose which final boss you want to fight, and they're there forever. And it's just 1 phase instead of 2 phases, or maybe it's 2 phases, whatever. And then when you have a certain number of daily entries. So rather than it being a timed event, and rather than it being like this, you just, and they would get rid of these rewards, right? These rewards over here. they would get rid of these, but you'd have the shop, or maybe they would transpose these into a shop. But basically, you would have, let's say, 3 attempts per day, and you can choose which of the 10 or 7 or whatever final bosses you want to fight. I mean, there's final boss Twigo as well, so there'd be 8 at least with the 7 sins. And then you would choose which one you want. You'd fight them. You'd get some rewards. Then you would go into a shop and you'd spend those rewards, or they would drop rewards rather than there being a shop, right? So these are ways in which they can create some permanent PvE content that does not, isn't just mindless autoplay, to make players more engaged and to feel more engaged when they're playing. Because I think part of the, in my opinion anyways, part of the feeling of repetitive gameplay is the fact that we just hit auto and then watch them play or leave and come back. And then we just, like most of the, if you think about it, most of the game is you navigating through the menus of 7 Deadly Sins Grand Cross, setting your team up to autoing it, coming back, and then navigating through the menus again to the next piece of auto content, right? And then some people will do their PvP at the beginning, some people do their PvP at the end or somewhere in the middle, if you're crazy. But that's basically what it boils down to, right? There's not a lot of engaging, interactive, single-player content that this game provides that you don't just slap auto on and then just dip. I know that there's Tower of Trials, but unfortunately, Tower of Trials, kind of like Reverse Stages, is once a month. So I feel like they are getting there. They're on the right track. They sort of get it, right? They have this final boss, and they've been really good about releasing the final bosses a lot faster on global. So I feel like that, to me, indicates that they want to end up transforming final boss into something else, possibly something permanent, because they're rushing them through global so fast. But you know, with Tower of Trials only being something that you can complete once a month, it's almost like Training Cave, right? And Training Cave itself has never been updated on JP either. So there's a ton of potential, I think, to upgrade these single-player PvE encounters to add more longevity and to lessen the amount of repetition. You know, for example, I had an idea with Training Cave. If they released a 2nd season and a 3rd season of Training Cave, right? It's 9 fights, so they only have to come up with another 18 fights, right? But you have 9 fights that you can do in addition to the 3 fights that you do against your sort of mirror match team, which is a very interesting thing that they do in the game. But anyways, you have your 9 fights right now. We have 9. And so if they create another 18 fights and they have another 2 seasons, then once they get to 27 bosses, 27 fights, then what they can do is they can update Training Cave and change it so that each player just randomly gets an assortment of 9 bosses out of the potential 27, and the order will always be different. And the, you know, with an order, a random order, and 27 possible options shrinking down to 9, there's so many permutations that you can get, right? And so, or you could create a sort of map system like they do in Marvel Contest of Champions, where as you progress through the map, you'll unlock, or you'll sort of uncover different areas, or maybe it will change as you go along the path, right? And so you're defeating certain bosses and you're applying certain teams, and so then you get different bosses to sort of try to change your strategy or change the way that you're playing, so that it's more interactive, because people autoplay Training Cave now too, right? So yeah, I think there's a lot of opportunity for development there. I think the game has a bright future ahead of it. I just wanted to share my opinions with you guys, and also if the devs are listening, and also to hear what you guys have to say and what you think. Do you think the game has a lot of repetitive content? If you think the game does have repetitive content and repetitive gameplay, where do you think it stems from? Do you think it's what I'm talking about, or is it something else? Let me know down below in the comments. Thank you so much for watching. Thanks for listening to my TED Talk, and I will see you in the next one. Take care.